Okay, I will say that I don't know if this is important to say, but anyways, no, this is not something that I talk about a lot, like with this forcefulness and clarity that I'm about to, but whatever that's worth. So what am I thinking about? So I'm basically completely
Because
obsessed.
of a lack of audience or
Um,
restraint?
that's a very good question. No, no, I'll tell you why. Because I am obsessed with this notion, and the notion is that there's this thing called Das Hashem, which is apparently everything that depends on that, such as world peace, most explicitly. Lo yareh v'lo yashchisu b'chol hakod shekimo lo tzedei Hashem. And a just world. Um, and it's the only thing that's important according to the prophet Yirmiyah. So basically, we have this theory. We might not know what it is, but that's gets to why I don't talk about this. But let me just say what basic point. So we have this theory in the books, that is to say, it says it in these holy books, that Das Hashem is everything. It's what we need to develop in order to perfect ourselves and perfect the whole world. So basically, I've been obsessing with what is that? What exactly is this Das Hashem? What's the theory that this is going to be the salvation of humanity? And how can we cultivate it? Now, why didn't I talk about this? Because there's no one talking. There's like, it's such a weird thing to talk about. That's like, right? Like, who
Right.
talks about this? But it's very odd that people don't talk about this. Like, that's so interesting.
But does
Because
Rebbe know of a time where people did talk about this explicitly?
I'll tell you something crazy. I've recently been reading um, some Sabbatean literature. Okay, there's some of the writings from the
Oh, wow.
Tzvi
Amazing.
movement. I don't know if you
Amazing.
know. Recently, there's been like a shtickle renewed interest in it. I don't know if you know. Like that
No, but I
Tufa.
totally I already understand why, and I understand why you'd find relevant
Well,
information there.
yeah, I'll say I got to it simply because people throw it around all the time. He was a Sabbatian, this, that, and like, what exactly was the whole theory? It's very obscure to me, and I never knew what it meant. And I was like, oh, let me just start reading some primary sources. And recently, some people have published them. I think there's just renewed interest in it. I'm not sure why. Different quarters. So there's like a few things been published recently. Anyways, long story short, I read a book by Avram Cardozo, who was one of the major, let's say, art articulators of the redemptive idea in that time, and specifically relating to Tzvi. But he has this book where he called Boker Avram, and he mamish talks about what's Das Hashem. And he says such amazing things. He says, like, it can't just be monotheism because we already have monotheism and the world is still messed up. So clearly it's something else. And he goes through a whole thing what it is with his Kabbalah and whether it's heretical or not, and whether Shabtai Tzvi's Kabbalah is heretical or not. Needn't concern us. But it was the first. It was such a fascinating book. I actually bought it in Israel right before on my way out the last time I was visited, and I read it on the way home, and it was on the plane, and it was like I couldn't put it down because I never saw a book. I never saw a writer who's like just mamish focusing on what is this Das Hashem.
Okay, can I ask Rebbe though? Okay, when you see the Rambam and I the Mar Nevuchim aside, because I don't have that, I don't have enough to speak about that. But let's say the Rambam in Deus, where he
Yeah.
says, or the Rambam when he says that everything a person does exists for to know Hashem better and
Yeah.
to Das Hashem, Das Hashem.
Yeah.
Does that count, or Rebbe's talking specifically about talking about it in a different form, or Rebbe's saying you see a culture listening to the Rambam, or actually like, do you
Yeah.
understand? I do see it in the Rambam, but
Right.
so what excited Rebbe about this book? So
I see. Okay.
Rebbe's saying people like actualizing the Rambam or being Mekayim the Rambam. Is that
One second. That's a very interesting question. Okay, let's
sorry,
Yeah, you hear me now?
yeah,
Okay. 1 second. Still hear me?
yeah.
Okay. It's a great question. What if people were doing the Rambam? Everyone was living Rambam, would that count?
No, I mean, is what is Rebbe seeing? I assume Rebbe sees this in the Rambam. I assume the Rambam is a big inspiration for Rebbe's
Oh, it's an
understanding of Das of
inspiration.
Das
Yeah.
Hashem thing. So
Um,
I, I guess it's woven into Chazal throughout, and that's the point, and that's why we learn. But
yeah, look, that's why we
maybe
do
the Rambam was
everything. No,
more
here's the thing.
explicit,
Right, right. Well, no, so here's the thing. That's why we do everything.
right?
Okay. And yet, that of why we do everything, what is the that, is not so defined to most people. Two things.
Right,
What that is not so defined, and how is that supposed to solve all the world's problems is also not so defined.
right.
And then what's the next thing is, okay, so what are we doing about that? So those are the three steps that I'm busy with. What is it? Um, and then as a theory for human perfection, societal, human, national perfection, okay, what would that look like? And then what do we need to do about it?
Okay. But what if Das Hashem, right? This notion of Das Hashem is just it's you're breaking something into three parts. Doesn't need to be. It's just Das Hashem. That's the answer to all three. That's
Well, what
what
is
it.
Das Hashem?
It's what it is, and
Okay.
it's what it is. It's what the future will be, and it's what we do about it. It's the answer to all three. Is Das Hashem that understanding?
No, I understand, but what's going on with my computer? Hold on. The point is that if the whole Torah and everything we do is downstream of this idea, don't we have to make sure we understand what the idea is? A, and B, don't we have to explain how the idea is supposed to fix the world's problems in order to make sure it does?
No, no. The rest, no, no. For the first part, yes, we should understand it. When you
At
understand
least
it,
because it's part of the
when you
Torah, right?
understand it, you don't have a step two. You won't ask why this fixes all the world's problems. When you understand it, you'll understand either there won't be problems or it'll be inherent in the definition of Das Hashem. The rest of the other two questions, but
Um, I guess that's one way to do it, but like to me, that's like saying, like, I mean, anything you understand, doesn't that help you figure out how better to implement it? Like, is there anything like that? Like, why would you say all we should do is try to understand it? Don't anytime you understand something, that you then are better able to put it into effect. Why would you say such a thing?
what is putting the idea into effect? It's
No,
the
see, here's the
knowing
thing.
is itself. There's nothing beyond that. Knowing is the knowing, is the
Wait a
idea.
sec. Okay, wait. No, but the question, right? Okay, so okay, so you're made. So there's some sort of knowledge, let's say, okay, or let's say some sort of mindset called Das Hashem.
Yeah.
And if the world has that mindset, somehow that's going to solve all the world's problems, right? That's what it says in the prophets.
Yeah. I mean,
And you're
solve
saying,
problems or show you that there are no problems, explain to you why what you thought were problems aren't problems, whatever it is. And
fine.
yes, in a divine, in a crazy way. Yeah.
Okay, so that's crazy. So why would we not um, be interested in knowing how that's going to happen? I don't really see what you're saying. In other words, isn't it the case that if we could say how that would solve the world's problems, then we could make at least make a better case for Das Hashem?
No, because Das Hashem is the be all and end all. And when you don't move on from that. When you have an encounter with Das Hashem, you just want to know it better.
How do you
And you just
know?
want to
How
bask
do
in
you
it
know?
better.
How do you
What?
know? How do you know? But this
Because
is
I have moments where I
uh
tap in and I don't
oh, you could
see
talk.
it. I take a step back. I come. I wrote down a note. Now I come back. If Das Hashem includes with it the answer to all the world's problems, it'll include the answer to how it will fix the world's
Okay.
problem and what you should do with it.
Good.
So
So, but
if
why? Yeah.
you focus on one, just growing Das Hashem, you'll understand the next two because
Okay.
it are two problems.
Okay. Okay.
That
Right. So that's very interesting. Okay, interesting point. So basically you're saying why should we think about how it works? Um, think about what it is that you agree is worth thinking about, what it is,
Of
right?
course,
Okay.
that's the one.
Okay. But how it's going to be effective, um, shouldn't be important to us. Okay, interesting.
No, it's
The
important to
reason,
us. That's one of the problems. It'll answer world peace, and it'll also answer why it's important to us. It'll also answer it's a macro theory.
yeah, I
It'll
know,
answer
but here's the
what we
thing.
should
If we
do with
can't
it.
explain, right, but if you don't think about how it's going to work, we're much less likely to be able to put it into practice. In other
Well,
words,
first,
if I know how it would work, wouldn't that make it more all the more appealing to me?
you don't know what it is.
Oh, wait. Oh, but well, let's say I do know what it is. Okay, but no, I think we have to think about all those together
Oh, if
because
you know what it is and you're still conflicted about what to do with it, then you don't know it enough.
ah,
Know it a little more, and you'll find it'll answer that question too. It's
yeah,
not a
okay, I hear what you're
limited.
saying. Okay, that's interesting. Right. I think I agree with that. I think I agree with that, but I don't, right, that I wouldn't start with the second question of how it's going to work. I would start with the first question of what is it? That's what you're saying.
Only the first question is the only important question. Yeah.
Right. No, the reason why it's second,
Until you know
no, I'll
what
tell
to
you why the
do with it.
second, no, I'll tell you why the second part is important to me for two reasons. First of all, because I'm not like you. I'm not such a mamin. I want to be skeptical of the Nevi'im. I want them to prove their claim that Das Hashem is going to be so effective. And the way they want them to prove their claim is by me understanding why that's going to be so effective. Why are you taking it on faith? Why should I
What
take
do
it
you
on
mean?
faith?
What am I taking on faith?
That Das Hashem is going to solve all the problems. You're saying
Because
we
I
don't have to
because
understand it,
that's my definition of Das Hashem. One of my definitions of Das Hashem is the thing that solves all problems.
but that doesn't help you. But that doesn't help you if you don't explain.
Of course it does. What do
You're
you
getting me
mean?
very confused now because,
Of course it
Okay, so let
helps.
me get to my second point. Okay, I'm a little confused here. I have to follow this. I want to just get to the second point, which is that if we're going to argue for Das Hashem, we have to know how it works. Do you agree with that?
What do you mean by how it works?
Ah, if we could explain how it's going to solve all the world's problems, then that becomes a compelling argument for Das Hashem, and therefore we can spread Das Hashem.
No,
No.
no.
Why am I wrong?
One one of the things is that a way, let's assume I think it's this is clear because you see it in smaller scales too, but one of the ways it'll solve the world's problems is not by giving you the solution. Now the problem is X and the solution to X is Y. But it's going to say, no, you thought it's solving the world's problems. It's saying you thought X was a problem. X isn't the problem. You're looking at X wrong. Like that's not the problem. The problem,
Well, you don't
what
think it's supposed to unlock like great human potential, like in a practical way? It's supposed to change our mindset?
what do you mean?
Do you think that Das Hashem will also lead people to acting differently and just not just thinking about the world differently?
Of course, I act differently as my
Good.
Das Hashem grows.
Good. So isn't that something you'd like to explain to people that there's this X mindset called X, which is called Das Hashem, and when you have that mindset, you act differently, and you want to act differently because you want to be happy and you want to be rich and you want to be successful,
It
and
would
Das
be
Hashem makes you
different,
better.
but I can't. I would say different is sure, but that doesn't. That's not a chiddush. I'm telling you, I act differently, but I'd act differently if I was doing the opposite. If I was dasa looking for dasa satan, I'd also be different. No matter what, even if I did nothing, everyone's always being different.
Right.
I
So is there
can't
an
say
argument
how
to be made?
someone's going to be different because I'll never know until they're different.
Right, but is there an argument to be made for Das Hashem based on its effects?
Yeah, but that's an impossible. It won't work
Why?
because I don't know. First of all, first of all, I don't know how the Das Hashem will evolve me. Okay, I know how it has evolved me so far, but I don't know how tomorrow if I grow in Das Hashem. I don't know. I
Okay.
don't. So it's not something I can put an argument for.
Okay.
Okay, and even when I achieve that, then the things that I have achieved were not important to me. They weren't on my mind now. Meaning there aren't certain things that I want now that I want to achieve that will strive Das Hashem to achieve those things. I
Mm-hmm.
don't have those things. It's that I know things will change. I'll strive for Das Hashem. And then having Das Hashem, I will have evolved into something greater, things that I couldn't have even imagined before.
Okay.
Does that make
So,
sense?
So what was the first point you said? You said 2 points. What was the first one? I want to go back. You said you don't know how it will change you?
You can't know. It's
Why not?
impossible to
Why
know.
not? Why is that?
You can't tell the future.
No, I know, but you can't know. See, if the Nevi'im would say everyone should do X, and if they do X, the world's going to become perfect, wouldn't we want to know the theory for that in order to be able to change the world and get everyone to do that?
We
Like,
know,
why is this the one thing that and by the way, I want to accuse you also here.
please come strong.
Yeah, I want to accuse,
I have
I want to
no.
analyze you also and say that you're saying this because you're not embracing Das Hashem as like a real thing. Like we embrace everything else, every other thing in the world we think about. And all of a sudden, when it comes to Das Hashem, you're refusing to think about it. If someone gave you a theory,
What do
Jordan
you mean think
Peterson,
about? Of course, I think about it. I think about it all the
no, but the
time. I
how,
meditate on it.
but the how. If Jordan
What the
Peterson
hell?
says,
What?
if someone says Jordan Peterson says everyone should, I don't know, hold their spine straight, then that's going to change their lives, right? So everyone
Yeah,
wants to know, well, why is that they're going to change their lives? Oh, because it gives you hormones and whatever, and it makes you confident and responsible. I don't know, whatever, right? So,
yeah. Why are
but
you?
then when it
Why
comes,
are you keeping trying to limit Das Hashem into something and making it a comparison to every other theory? It's fundamentally different. It's kadosh. It's different.
why is Kadosh different? Kadosh just means it's the best.
Exactly. It's the best. Meaning it changes you in ways you don't even know. You don't even want those ways yet.
Okay, did Yeshaya know what he was talking about when he said Das Hashem is going to make the world into the best place? Did he
Yeah, we know
understand
that.
it?
Yeah, Das Hashem will make the world perfect.
Okay, did he understand how when he said that?
In I don't know.
I think you're saying he didn't, and that's why I'm
I don't
asking
know.
you
No,
why.
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, that's why I feel like that's why I'm arguing that you
No,
don't.
he. I honestly, no, he didn't.
Why? Why would you
I
say
think.
such a crazy thing?
I mean, how can Rebbe say that Yaakov Avinu didn't?
Didn't what? Didn't have Das Hashem.
No, I think that
That's a
this
different point.
achievement. I don't. Well, I hope we're not going to be arguing on terms, but this level of this ultimate achievement of Das Hashem, I think, is something that's only capable in Achras Yamin, in the end of days,
Well,
and
we're there, so
everyone
let's
that
go.
was looking for
I
that
think we're
weren't.
there.
Exactly. I understand.
And
That's what I'm
and yet
saying.
you're
Maybe
arguing we're
that's
not
why I
supposed to
mean
move.
when I say that that Yeshaya perhaps didn't have that full understanding because he wasn't Zaycha, just like the others weren't Zaycha, and
Ah,
Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't Zaycha.
look,
That's
wait a
the
second. No,
understanding.
you're confusing two things here. No, you're confusing two things because you're confusing the theory of it and the practice of it, the implementation of it. When I said, did Yeshai know what he mean? I meant to say, could he have explained to me the theory of it, and written some very interesting books about why Das Hashem will solve all the world's problems? Whether he could actually put into practice, even on a personal level and certain on a societal level, is a different question. I was asking you when he said this, could he have explained it? Someone said, Rabbeinu Yeshaya, what do you mean that the world's gonna be full of Das Hashem and not gonna kill each other? Why would that? Everyone's been killing each other for the last 5,000 years, and
What
why is that going to
what's an
change?
explanation,
Hmm?
right? What's an explanation? I mean, if Rebbe achieves a full explanation now, I don't think it's something you can go back in time, and I think you'll lose. Meaning, even if you develop an explanation that's matim for somebody now and at one time in one place, that explanation won't work before and after.
I don't agree because then you're basically saying this term, unlike everything else, has no fixed meaning. Why would this, of all things, not have a fixed meaning? Everything we see has a fixed meaning. The Torah says to love Hashem, to fear Hashem,
No, I
whatever.
don't know. What has a fixed meaning? What does love mean? What does fear mean? What do these things mean? I mean, fixed meanings aren't as they
The
aren't so
Popperian,
simple. Fixed meanings in general aren't as simple
for sure
as
not.
they may seem.
No, no,
So
I agree with
general
you.
always.
Yeah, I'm not looking for a definition, but I'm looking for progress. And for progress, we have to at least talk about what this could mean or what we could do with this notion. And
But
to
I
say
don't
no, it's
understand.
like a
Why does
self-contained
Rebbe need that?
notion.
Why isn't talking about it enough? Like, why can't we start there? And then from there, we'll see the answers. Maybe with a proper understanding of Das Hashem, you understand that maybe you don't preach it. Maybe it's not something to be preached. Maybe it
Why
is,
is it
maybe
such a
it's
thing of
not.
yours? Why is this?
Maybe, maybe it is and it's not. I think Rebbe's assuming it is.
Yeah, I definitely am. I'm 100% assuming it is.
Yeah, why? Why assume such a
Because
thing?
everything interesting is worth preaching and teaching. Like, why do I see any different?
That's a bad reason. I'm just saying maybe
Why?
is, maybe not. You don't know for sure that it is. You have this notion of Das Hashem that you want to achieve. you're worrying about explaining it before you understand what it is.
Ah,
Understand
well,
what it is. Maybe it is something you should preach. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's something that if you actually, maybe I'm right. Okay, maybe you're right. Maybe I'm right.
mm-hmm.
But I think meaning I'm right, meaning I'm saying don't preach it, do it. By doing it, you'll show, right? Show, don't tell,
Uh-huh.
right? Okay. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying it. But why would you assume that either of us are right? Let's assume we're both wrong. Let's understand Das Hashem better, and
Right.
then we'll understand what we're working with better. We'll understand how to work with it better, what to do with it.
Right. No, I hear what you're saying. I guess I could agree that maybe there are certain things that you're not supposed to talk about so much. You're just supposed to do them. But I I think most things are not
Wait, we
like
got
that.
to come at this. What are you comparing it to other things? We're talking. Let's in a vacuum.
Why is it in a vacuum? That's exactly, you're begging the question. Why
Because
would you,
everything you look at for the first time should be in a vacuum. This is everything should. If you're analyzing a person, it should
okay.
be in a vacuum. You shouldn't say, oh, all other kinds of people, all other kinds of, I guess, all other kinds of children need milk. So this baby
Okay.
needs, I don't, whatever.
Uh-huh.
That's wrong. I think when you're analyzing something in a pure form, you should take it in a vacuum.
Okay.
Don't go.
I just still, I feel like you're overcomplicating it and I'm suspicious of why, even though really why is not so important.
How?
I don't
Just
understand.
say
Like I found a
it.
book, I found an old book, a holy book, and it says X is the solution to mankind's problems. And I'm like, okay, what's X? How is it the solution? And how could we advance it? And you're like, maybe you shouldn't ask how is it the solution? Of
No,
course I want to ask that.
no, what I'm saying is, what I'm saying is, you first, not that it's less important. You have, first, here's what X is, here's going to solve those. Why do you have to, okay, in the simplest form, why do you have to jump and do everything all at once? Take
Okay.
one thing at a time.
Okay,
Okay.
fine. So let's talk about the one thing. Okay, fine.
And why is that not? And if I'm saying take one thing at a time, why is that not the obvious thing to take first?
Yeah,
Right?
it is. Of
It's
course
like
it is.
we have this amazing product that will help cure all diseases in the world. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're running now. You're worried about how we're gonna ship it to all the hospitals. I mean,
Okay.
figure out what this
So
is.
that's the third question. No, you jumped. Your analogy was incorrect. I want to do three steps. What is it? How is it going to cure the world's ills? And how can we ship it? How can we get it to the world? Like practically, my practical question. My first question is a definitional or an analytical. What is it? My second one is a theoretical. How is it going? How is it supposed to work? I want to understand the science behind it. And my third one is a practical political question. How are we implementing it? So just in
Okay.
your analogy,
Okay, I
you
understand.
jumped
That
in.
makes it better. That makes it better. On the third one, I would say like you can start preparing the shipment of it. I know this is not what you said, but you could start preparing the shipment of it and start calling all the trucks. Then you realize it's something that doesn't fit in a truck.
You're right,
You need
for
a
sure,
cargo
for
boat.
sure.
Call
Definitely.
the cargo boats. You realize it's too small. You need a microscopic machine. Okay, you don't know it's. And
Correct.
then what was the second one that
Oh,
you
how
said?
it works, how it's going to work. So let's
Okay,
go.
so let's say I just want to take one and two, what you're
Yeah,
saying, one and two, and I'm just saying three. I'm saying is non-relevant
I'm
right now.
granting that. I'm granting
Let's
that.
figure out one and two first, and then
Yes,
we'll figure out how to transport the
correct.
product.
Right.
Okay,
And now,
and one and two, you're breaking into one and two. I think that's I'll call it a big one. Okay, and
oh,
I
okay.
think
So
it's the
then we're in
same.
agreement, dear.
Okay,
We're sort of in agreement because basically, to put it more even clearly, let's using your analogy. Okay, I'm studying a molecule that I think could cure cancer, right? So I'm going to be interested in the molecule. I'm going
yeah.
to be looking at it, what its properties are, but I'm always going to be thinking about how it's going to cure cancer. I can't. I'm not going to look at it on its own.
Yes, maybe. But okay, so I think there's with one, right, is what this is molecule. I have a million questions, endless, infinite amounts of questions that I will use. One of them will be, how will this cure all the world's problems? One of them will be, how do I achieve it? How do I tap into it? How
Right,
do
but
I
I'm going
work
to have to
with it?
think about two in order to refine one.
Yes and no. I think there's a million things you need to think about in order to get one. I think two is not special, right? I
So
just
that's an
I just
interesting
think
question.
everything
No,
that
two is
you're
very special.
using to achieve one is one. I don't think too special. And I think you're giving an ulterior motive. Maybe
Okay.
the reason why we should be striving for Das Hashem is not because it's curing all the world's problems, but because Lishma.
Yeah. So now I think we got to a
Just
very
be
interesting.
learning for Das Hashem because Das Hashem.
Right.
Who cares about the fact that maybe it'll only cure the world's problems when you achieve Das Hashem Lishma.
Maybe. So I
Maybe
think
you don't know. So
this is a
why?
great
It's
question.
just an ancillary question. I think
Right.
it's with everything else.
Okay. No, this is a
We can
very good
help you
point.
get there, but don't no special.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Look, this is a very interesting question. In the analogy to look, the pharmaceutical company that has uh a certain interest in studying the molecule, which his interest is to cure cancer, is going to be defining which questions it focuses on and what it looks for based on its objectives. Your argument
Okay.
here is that Das Hashem is not a means to an end, such that we should think about what we're trying to achieve in order to determine what we think about. We should think about Das Hashem in and of itself, and then
Okay.
and then
Our pharmaceutical company is a little bit bigger, and you're in the cancer department. You get them. You get the molecule. You know, you have a strong reason based off of experience, tradition, etc., that this molecule is game changing. Okay, you're on the cancer department. So you're like, how is this going to cure cancer? So you're measuring it against all the cancers. Oh, boom, you've found your cure. You're going to start shipping it out for cancer. But you only found the cancer shabbat. There are other things as well. If you come in from a different perspective, you find things that you didn't even know. Not only does this cure cancer, cures also that disease, also preventative, also this, also that.
right.
And
So
if when you
now,
come in, you're not closed, you're not looking in closed, you're coming into it, and then you can see from it inside out as to
yes,
what it can do.
yeah, this is a
But when
very
you're coming
interesting
in, how
question.
is this going to solve the world's problems? You're only looking for the problems, so the solutions, Shabbat.
Okay, and therefore you're going to be missing what?
Everything that you're not looking for.
Okay, but here's the big, very important question. They're getting to a very deep question here because um, let's skip analogies over here. Okay, I'm going to try to make this as clear and concise as possible. Why do we assume that Das Hashem is interesting and powerful? I think you're assuming that a priori we believe it's important, but we don't even know why.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I'm approaching it is I'm a little skeptical of that. I think the fact that it's so
I
effective,
have my experience.
yes, but your experience, okay, so your experience is a data point. I have experiences also. I think it's the most amazing thing in the world. And I can explain why. And I could also explain how it's effective and how it's going to have effects and what kinds of effects it's going to have. And unlike you, I think that that is actually the basis of why we should pursue it. I don't think we're pursuing it lishma just because we have some Messiah. And the reason why, this is I'm going to finish my point with this. I don't think that when the Nevi'im were busy with it, it was for other reasons than we should be busy with it. I don't think we're supposed to be starting like with this as if we know something that's just on faith and like we'll figure it out, we'll see what happens. I think we have to reverse engineer and say, well, why were the Nevi'im so busy with this? And you're making an assumption. They're busy with it because they just had, I don't know, uh, a din, a hanacha, an unstudied hanacha. Why should you say that? I would think no, they had a theory of why it's important.
Yeah, but why? Okay, I'm very focused on the experience. They knew it. They experienced it.
Yeah, but did they experience its effects, or what do you mean they experienced it? They experienced it, what it does to them and to others and to the way they live.
Well, they experienced it and what it did to them. Yeah. And
Right.
but
So
what
then,
it did to them and how it affected them, how it changed them, and it affects it has on everything that comes into contact with it.
right, right. So then I think when we think about one and two, we think about them together because it's the effects that made it so interesting to them. I mean, is that ulterior motives? Maybe. I am very selfish. I did have moments of my life where like Das Hashem and in what I believe is really
No,
Das
because
Hashem, and
my
I was a changed
experience
person.
every time I'm just I'll come back to my experience again. I've never been successful at growing in Das Hashem when I've said, ugh, like, okay, I'm not juggling. I have three, I'm juggling too many things in life right now. I need to expand my consciousness in Das Hashem. So I'm gonna go meditate for this. Like that's never ever been effective. It's only ever been effective when it came from a place of lishma, a place of genuine curiosity and a place of genuine wanting to tap in. When I was I don't know what it was before I say what it was, but it was when it wasn't for the ulterior motive.
Correct.
So that kind of makes me think that when you're going for something for the ulterior motive, in my experience, it's never worked.
I
And it's
know.
not even with Das Hashem, it's with many things as well,
Agreed.
many good things as well. But
Agreed.
but
But let me
but
ask you about the
yes,
following. Yeah, let me ask you about
yeah.
the following formulation though. Is it worthwhile to say, to state, put this on paper and teach it to other people that there's something that when you do it for lishma, for its own reasons, it ends up changing you in ways that affect everything else. And had you been focused on everything else, it wouldn't have worked. Or is that by definition
If we
unteachable?
want to look at this, if we want to look at this, everyone that's written something in order to write something successful, something a clear message. Step one, I mean, is you have to really understand what it is you're writing down.
Yeah.
You can't. This conversation that we're recording now, this is not written downable form. I'm not
No.
saying that's not possible, but you
Right.
can't write this down. It's not going to work. Even
Right.
if you manage to publish 1,000 pages with pictures and whatever, it's not going to be nifness. It's not going to be because you don't have a grasp enough to express it. So I think that's what I'm saying. First of all, step one is growing in the understanding of it to get to a point where you can do that.
Okay. So,
And what I'm saying is, so long as you're doing that, just being all in, you'll reap the benefits of showing because you'll actively being influenced by this,
yeah.
and actively growing and becoming more a special person,
Yeah.
more of a role model for other people to look.
Right. So I agree with that. I just don't understand why you would say and you wouldn't talk about it. Because I would say yes, and you would also talk about it and want to talk about it, want to express it, not just like live
Of
it.
course, I want to express it, of course. But the question is in what, how, right? When I'm dying to express it, and I don't know if this is such an arrogant thought that I have, but many times when I'm doing well, and I see that other people see that I'm doing things that they're not able to do.
Mm,
Okay. Not in
um,
just like a kaiches thing, in like
mm,
a management thing. It's a weird thing. People
mm,
don't even know.
mm.
And especially with the people close to me, like, I wish you would ask. Like, I wish
Mm.
somebody would ask. Like
Ah,
nobody ever asks. I wish somebody would
it's
just
so
kind of
interesting.
ask and be opening to listen.
Ah,
I always have that where I
ah,
think
interesting.
like I need my talmidim. Like I have so many people. I'm like, you just be my see, consider me Rebbe, ask me questions and listen to what I tell you. I'm telling you. Push back, ask questions, but genuinely don't like push
Ah,
away. Just accept. I'm telling you, right?
yeah.
This is it. So but that's
That
the only
comedy.
way. That's the only way I can even find it. I can't initiate like we
Why not?
established.
But
I
why
can't
not? Why not?
because I don't have anything to put onto paper. I
Okay,
don't
so let's
have
go
the
to step
grasp
one.
of it in myself.
Fine.
That's not possible.
Right. So we both agree.
Every time I even try, I lose people when I
Okay. So it's
so
good. So that's my step one. We both agree that that's step one, right? Is defining it.
step one is before defining it. Step one is achieving it, doing it. I mean,
How can you do it if you don't know what you're trying to do?
what? How
So you're
can you
saying you only know it when you do
how
it?
can you define something that you don't know
No, I do.
how that
I'm
that
telling
you
you I do
haven't
know.
seen? How can you understand something that you haven't experienced? How can you fully understand something you haven't known and experienced?
Okay, so I'll be very candid. The reason why I feel right now I'm in a position that I could explain it is because for a few days I was in the position of trying to do it and not understanding it. So I'm actually agreeing with you, but I was in that position of I was in a very anxious is the wrong word. I was very like my soul was like really in a very like stormy place. Like I was really focused. Like I have to experience this. I have to have Das Hashem, but also what is it? But I decided I was committed to relentlessly focusing on this like in an obsessive way and caring about nothing else. And after doing that for a few days, I felt like I had a real breakthrough of what it is and what the experience is. And like my life, and it was a crazy thing how like I was a different person for still am like for a few weeks,
When was this?
like a few weeks ago. It's part of my
A few weeks ago,
current
and now
position.
this is a few weeks.
Yeah. So on the one hand, I agree
Wow.
with you that yes, you have to know what it is. And like to talk about it, and otherwise you can't. But I feel like I was in that very position, but I got to the point where I actually experienced it, and I felt like it, like sort of like you were saying before, it unlocked things that I didn't even realize it would unlock. But that
Wow.
itself is something I feel like I could explain and talk about, and therefore I should, and therefore everyone should talk about.
Wow. Wait. Um, okay. I mean, I want to say first, and this isn't just with this Das Hashem thing, it's life and whatever. In general, for me, is I get lazy in this area, right? So
Which
I
area?
like like everything in the world. Rabbi's 100% right. If you actually want to, if you want to be able to formulate it, and then there's the other aspect of people say you don't understand something till you can explain it to others, right? You have to explain it for, but that ability for I mean to write a book, first of all, to publish consistently, or to write a book, or to do this what Rebbe did for a few weeks, something that I've always pushed away in my mind. I've always procrastinated that. So, but I would admit that
So have I. I'm just like
that would be the
years
way
later.
to work at it. You know, I mean, that would be the way to do it. Yeah, of
Yeah,
course. And if Rebbe did that, then
right. Then there's what to talk about, I think, after the fact. So I think maybe the difference in our conversation is because I also
but what's Rebbe
procrastinated.
looking
One second, I also procrastinated, but I'm like a lot, so I'm older than you, so maybe I just got to the point where I stopped procrastinating. I'm like 10 years later, whatever. What was I looking for? So I was like, okay, I said, what's Hashem and why is it important? Why is it interesting? That's it. That's what I was thinking about.
Okay, but was Rebbe looking for like a one pager, or for like
I was looking
wait,
for
okay,
something.
first of all, before this, I didn't get to complete the whole thing, but I probably made it halfway down with the series that Rebbe sent me to look
Okay,
at.
yeah, that's yeah. Okay. We can talk about that.
I don't think that's it's not condensed, but why is that series? Why is Rebbe's Substack complete Substack? Like, why is that far from from this? I
It's
mean,
not.
it's a pretty
It's
good
not.
job. I think it could be the best job yet. I mean, I don't know. What I really don't know is what speaks to people. That I don't
Yeah,
know at all.
that's a
I
different
mean,
question. Okay. That's
that,
like gets to our third thing.
but
That gets to our third thing, right?
what's the yes? But what's the what? Why is Rebbe assume that this isn't found in the
Okay, because I'll
sub?
tell you one thing that didn't happen in my Substack, and this brings us back to Cardozo's book and where Cardozo parts from the Rambam. But your question about the Rambam in the beginning, I never really answered. You asked, like whether we have the Nevuchim and it's great, and isn't that, do we need more than that? So I want to answer three questions right now. Why my Substack is not solving this problem fully? Like, what am I looking for that's not haven't been doing there? Why I was so excited about Cardozo's points about Das Hashem, what they were. I'll tell you what they were a little bit, and why the Rambam is not doing it for me. And it's one answer for all of them because um, my Substack talks a lot about like das, about like mindset, but it doesn't talk about Hashem. It doesn't talk about what Hashem is. And you know who else doesn't talk about what Hashem is? You know who? The Rambam talks about what Hashem isn't.
Right,
They talk about what Hashem is. And that's
right.
where Kabbalah and the Rambam parts ways. And that brings me to Cardozo, who
The
says,
Kabbalah says that it discusses is.
yeah, if anything, that's the big machlekes in Kabbalah and the Rambam is that the Rambam says we can only talk about negative attributes, and Kabbalah says we can talk about positive attributes of God.
That's Popper and Hegel. That's Popper and Marx.
Wait, explain.
No, that's Popper. Popper says that the fault of society, the mistake everyone makes, is that they think that you can give you could give a definition, a positive of the right positive
Yeah, yeah.
definition.
I once
Marx,
tweeted, I think I
Hegel,
once tweeted
Plato, and
Popperian religion.
that's what leads to all problems in the world. And you can't define anything. You can only negate. You can only negate.
I once
That's all you
tweeted
can do.
Popperian religion.
What?
I once tweeted Popperian religion. That's my tweet.
Yeah, I'm in. I'm in. So I think that there's right the way Popper would say, and I didn't hear it yet, so I'm not saying this for sure. But what Popper would say is, I guess people get too excited. They just want to jump to the end, and they mess up, and then they convert to Marxism, Hegelian, whatever, and Popper. They run to something, but it's not it. You should all you can do is negate.
So let me address this point, and I think this will make it clearer what I was saying before about like we have to think about why it's so effective.
Wait, so Rebbe saying he changed camps to the Kabbalah.
Okay, look, there's this
I still see Rambam on the shelf, so maybe
there's this myth that I'm a Rambamist. Yeah, that's my Rambam. It's an urban legend that I'm a big Rambamist. No, I am. I'm a Talmud of the Rambam, of course. Okay, it's quite complicated. It's quite complicated. There are a couple of parts that are complicated. First complication, does the Rambam accept what the Mukabbalim are saying? Another complication is, does the Mukabbalim accept what the Rambam is saying? Are they talking about the same thing? And this is how I'm going to address your point about Popper and science. The 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 uh, when we're talking about determining truth, then I'm all for skepticism, conjecture, and refutation. But let's say you're talking about love. So you're like, oh, I don't know what love is because I'm being Popperian about it. Like, it's a big mistake, right? Because
right.
we're looking for an experience, and like we have to talk about it somehow, and we have to write books about it. And if people don't know what love is, you might want to give them a sense of what love is, so that they should be like, oh, love is a cool thing. Let me do it also, right? And in a certain sense, this is getting into too much a lot of theology over here, but in a certain sense, what the Mekubalim, or at least maybe Cardozo. Okay, I don't want to give too much credence to Cardozo because he's officially a Sabbatian, whatever. So that's it's happened to be his book struck me. But what the Kabbalah do in general,
You would have been a Sabbatian.
huh?
He said you would have been a Sabbatian.
Chas v'shalom. Going on record and saying no way. But
Rough.
anyways, on record.
Sorry.
Like, anyway,
I
I
don't
don't know.
even know
How
what a
should I know?
Sabbatian is,
Right.
so
How
I'm
should I
taking
know?
that
Who
back.
knows? Yeah, I don't know exactly. That's why I started reading it. Um, um, a lot of them Kabbalim say is that we agree with the Rambam about God, but that's unknowable. And like when we talk about God, we don't we're talking about what we can know, which basically means, I mean, in a one way, okay. Like I said, we're not going to go into too much theology over here, but for my purposes, um, we're talking about what our experience can be. That's why I was much more interested than you are in the effects of Das Hashem, because I think that Das Hashem, like love, is not something that we pursue because we have some a priori notion that like, oh, this is something we should pursue. I think it's something that people have experienced and they know that this is amazing and they want to share it with others. The prophets did that. And that's why I think it's more of an experiential thing. And as an experiential thing, um, the effects of it are part and parcel of it. Okay. So let's
Yeah,
say, let me just,
first of all, Rebbe just said the Rambam Sefer Mitzvahs Mitzvahs Hashem. Uh,
true. Yeah.
and
But yeah,
am I wrong?
no, no, you're not.
Okay.
You're not.
Okay. Is that
Uh,
something separate from Yedias Hashem?
is what? Is Avos Hashem separate from Dias Hashem in the Rambam?
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. Al pi adei, al pi hav.
Uh-huh.
Against
So
sacred
I
love.
think Rebbe did explain Havas Hashem, and I think I think the hard part with all this stuff, I don't know. I have a friend, my friend Alicia Heshing is very into phenomenology, like Heidegger. Um, these things are very hard to explain into words.
Yeah.
These
Oh, by the way,
experiences.
Heidegger is obsessed with being, and that's what I've been thinking about also. I don't know if you know.
Wait, these experiences.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, defining these describing these undescribable experiences. I mean, that's
Okay, but here's the thing. I don't think it's undescribable. I think it's actually simple. I think we have to make it simple.
no, but it's hard. It's hard. That's I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying it's very hard when you start reading somebody trying to explain an experience, a deep experience. It's very hard to follow. It's very hard.
I know, but see, I think, and this is the difference one difference to me and you, is that I see that as a challenge that we must overcome if we're ever going to get somewhere, like to the end of days. Clearly, we're going to figure out a way to overcome that challenge.
I'm getting my charger.
Well, and you're like, oh, it's happening by itself. And I'm like, what do you mean? It's only going to happen because we're having this conversation. So let's do this. Like that's why I'm like pushing back on you and I'm saying I'm arguing you're coming from the wrong place. Because like
Okay.
here I am trying to make it happen, and you're like, well, it's happening.
Has Rebbe seen Red Boober's book at all?
A
The I and the Thou.
long time ago. I don't know. I couldn't take it. Yeah.
Really? It's not very similar to these ideas that Rebbe's saying describing right now.
Maybe it is. I have to read it again. I've changed a
Okay.
lot in the
It's a
decades.
class of people. There's a school of people, and they explain, they describe and write about these indescribable experiences and these
Right.
feelings.
Right.
And they try to put it into words. And some of them do better at job than others, and some of them do better job
Right.
at different types of experiences.
Yeah.
But I think
Okay, but here's the thing.
there's a whole school of,
Right.
right?
Right. No, so here's the thing. I think, and this is my fault. I'm not blaming you. I
No.
think I led you down this way that you're focusing on it as an experiential thing, a phenomenological thing, a feeling thing.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's that. I think it's more than that. I think there's a truth to it. I think there's
Because
certainly
well,
is.
because in the beginning we were talking about idea, and Rabbi said, no, no, it's not idea. I want to describe it from an experiential point of view.
Well, I mean, okay, let's
That's
get
what
to
you
what the
said.
word das means. Here's the question: what the word das means. You realize this is a very interesting point. I mean, das does not mean uh intellectual kind of knowledge. Das means experience in Tanakh.
Okay.
Adam yada eschava. It's an intimate knowledge of something, like experiencing something, familiarity. I think das Hashem is familiarity with
Encounter.
Hashem. Hmm?
Encounter.
Yeah. Yeah, an encounter, right. But with something.
No, I understand. I understand.
For me,
But
it's an encounter with being in its most perfect absolute sense. And that's something that can make sense.
Rebbe's didn't do a good job at convincing me to take you out of this camp of the, I don't know what to call them,
Oh, the phenomenological camp?
or the theological. I mean, the in the Jewish world too, in the mystical world too. I mean, the Jewish one, like Buber, and I never read Rosenzweig, but
I read some of it. I tried. I'm supposed to read Cohn soon. Someone told me a lot of my thinking is similar to Herman Cohn, so I'm going to read that.
and I'm not. Yeah, why? Yeah, why is that? Why not? Why is everybody not there?
Okay. I'm not sure what the there is. A lot of times it seems to me like people are trying to like explain our experiences, and that just seems to me to be uninteresting. Like you're not talking about the
Isn't that what
whole.
you're trying to do now? Explain an
No,
experience?
no. I'm trying to argue. Here's my argument. I'm trying to say that there's a certain notion of reality that we should have first and foremost in our mind, and that notion can drive our activities and lead us. Having that notion in our mind will lead us in the best path, in the best paths. Is that the same thing
You
as
have you well, it's not just a notion in your mind. When I say that you want to expand it, you're playing both sides. When I call it a notion in the mind, you expand what your idea is to being more of an experience.
yes? Because if it's a
And when
no,
I'm calling it
no,
experience, you come back to a notion.
okay, no, I
Yeah.
said it's a notion that's going to inspire us and drive activity. That's because that's the idea aspect of it. It's not just a belief. It's a passion because it's something that drives. It's a kind of notion that inspires us to a certain kind of activity. I mean, let I'll say what it is and then tell me, I'm not sure where I fit into this, and maybe you're right. I'm not, your accusation about me playing two sides. I'm saying is like this, that there is a
I'm being mechaded. I'm just trying to
of course.
understand that.
No, of
Not
course.
yeah.
Yeah. This is
I'm
why we're
not.
having a conversation. I mean,
Yeah, Baruch Hashem.
um my theory is my theory, for understanding what this is all about, is that we are supposed to have a sense of being, of existence in its purest, most abstract sense. In other words, typically we have like particular being in our mind. Like right now, I'm talking to you, so I'm aware of you. I'm not thinking about the totality of existence. And even if I am thinking of the totality of existence, which is hard enough to do, I'm probably thinking about a bunch of stuff. What about the abstract notion of existence in and of itself? That's, to me, that's what Das Hashem means. Knowing the nature of existence in and of itself in a way that inspires you to live in accordance with it. That is my theory in a nutshell. And that's something that, yes, you could find in the Moreh Nevuchim, but it's not like the primary focus. That's why Moreh Nevuchim is not so much, does not so much do it for me.
Okay, so I just to get I heard just to get a better understanding. Does Rebbe mind repeating again from the beginning?
Yeah.
Just a quick monologue of what it is, what the conclusion was.
The
Like what
conclusion.
you came up with, like
Yeah.
what, like from
Yeah.
the beginning.
Okay. So, well, my own experience of like, what did I find?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
after the yeah, like what was the yeah.
Yeah. So I had my crucible of like a few days of like just agonizing and looking for what is Hashem and why is this interesting to me? And then I had this clarity of this notion of existence in its purity, meaning not particular, not any particular existent, not this, not that, and not everything as a collection of things, but rather the absolute pure notion of existence, of being. And that notion I also recognized as something that can light me on fire and inspire me to live in accord with it. And what does it mean to live in accord with it? It means to do things that are consistent with that notion.
Okay. I understand. I'm asking. Okay.
Hmm.
How does this get anywhere with number 3 on our list?
How do we put it into the boxes?
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, meaning
Like,
like
what's your question? It's too abstract. Is that what you're saying?
nope. Well, for someone that doesn't for someone else, yes, it
Okay.
is. I understand.
Hmm.
I understand and I appreciate it
Hmm.
and I want to sit on it. I very much appreciate it. Did Rebbe write anything?
Like this? I sent you a
Yeah.
note. That's about it. Oh, remember I sent you a WhatsApp. I think with this idea.
Which one?
Yeah, I'm resending it to you right now.
Okay. Would this bother Rebbe if I said that
I'm listening.
the way to get a better tfisa on what that experience is
Hmm.
the experience of existing.
Not of me existing. Of
No, of
Yeah.
existence.
Okay.
Okay, how does what Rebbe just said, okay? How does that differ from doing the things that I use to tap in? For example, one of them is like what Rebbe says, opening up my mind,
Okay.
like my thoughts, right? Opening up my thoughts to all of time and all of space and all people.
Like
Okay.
the Rambam and you
Doing
said that
that.
too. Look at everything,
Okay.
see everything, be full of love. Right. Okay.
Like opening it up and
Right.
letting people come in or seeing something all the way through to the end. This
Yeah.
is another one I like to see is
Yeah.
um
So I want to answer that
yes,
question.
call thyroid sign, like when I'm eating a
Right.
cookie,
Right.
really am meditating on the cookie. Yeah,
Right.
where it came from, seeing this through to the end.
Right. No, so here's the
I
thing.
do those two things and other things as well. if I do it right, at a point, I hit it. Like
Good.
that's a great, meaning I'm so subsumed in a right way of existing that I understand that, like I understand this notion. I understand, I have a moment of Das Hashem,
Right.
which now if I pull it out, and I would read Rebbe's WhatsApp now and say, yeah, that was fine too. I got there the first time through that
Right.
way, and I'm doing it this way.
Right. So this is like a top-down, bottom-up question.
Ah,
No, and here's the thing. This is a very important point you just raised. So you asked the question,
okay,
how do we
that's what
package
you're
this?
saying.
Yeah, you had a question, how do we package this, right? And not everyone can understand this. And we are starting with a different question at the beginning, like, why do we care so much about
Hey,
how it works?
why do you care about packaging it? I don't
No,
understand.
wait a
Like, are
second, because
you've had enough?
we
You
don't
want to
because the
share?
Torah is the packaging of this. And if you don't understand how to package it, you don't understand the Torah. You see?
What do
You
you
can't
mean?
you don't begin to understand the Torah. See, I want to show you what you just did.
Wait, the Torah is, whoa, that's a good point, Rebbe said, right? The Torah is a package of it.
Right.
So what do you need? What do you need to write? What do you need to
Okay.
write? It's there.
Very good. Excellent. Here's why. Here's why. I want to pull all these strands together because I feel like we actually got very far with this conversation. You just asked a couple of questions. You said, you do it. You think about the cookie, or you daven, or you do engage in other practices that add some lead here. So what?
Meditation.
Okay, meditation. So why do we need like this specific formulation of it, right?
Well, I wasn't asking it like that, but yeah, like what's the difference? Yeah. Oh,
No, you were like saying it's good. We're good. We have the formulas. Like what am I adding? Essentially.
no,
Why
I
am I?
wasn't saying like why do I need it if I have this? I was just kind of thinking out loud how to what contrast like how do you describe the difference of
Are those two different
the
things
two? I
about the
just
same?
said top down, bottom up.
Okay,
If you want
fine.
to elaborate, that would be very
Okay, good. Right. Okay, so
appreciated.
fine. What's the
Too.
difference in these two things, right?
Yeah.
And another question is how to package it. And another question that we started with was like, why do we care so much about how it works? Like, um, let's just think what it is, right? There's a couple of questions that we've been dabbling
Yeah,
with.
I think I'm with you.
Yeah. So I think these things all go together, and here's why. I don't think that every single person is capable of understanding this in a sophisticated way. I think many people are. So I want the people who are capable of understanding it to understand it. Why? Because the more they understand it, the more they'll know what they're looking for, and the more they'll be able to know what kinds of activities can bring people maybe somewhat closer to this, even if those people are not capable of understanding it. Okay, so I just
Why
gave
does
you the
Rebbe think
words.
people aren't capable of understanding it?
No, you raised that point. You said it's very abstract, and not everyone, it's maybe too abstract for some people. I agree with that.
In this
What?
okay. Rebbe's talking about your current form right now. I
Yeah,
understand.
yeah, but knowing what its essence is, if this is right, if this is what it is in its essence, then if the Chachamim are capable of understanding the essence in its correct form, we'll be able to then translate it into forms that are more usable for people who are not tapped into its purest form. That's what religion is, and that's what Maisa mitzvahs are.
Reason am I right? Am I right? Rebbe saying that this is the reason we're having this conversation, the having the dialogue is to first of all, I hope that just by asking questions, maybe making Rebbe explain that, as Rebbe got it probably.
Yeah.
So now that I have this notion, I can sit with it, digest it, etc. Spit
Yes.
it back to you, find maybe an insight in
Right.
how I can express it to somebody else,
Or even to
greater
yourself, or even to me.
or
Yeah.
less greater in sophistication, whatever. Just
Yeah.
like now it's out there, and now it's.
Right. And
Uh,
knowing how it has its effects, I think, is critical because I think that's how we could think about like what we're trying to do with this. Okay, it gets back to your point about maybe we're not trying to do something
hey,
like that.
like, does the Torah even say that? Right? If the
Wait,
Torah
okay.
doesn't say it like that, why do we have to say it like that?
Okay, so now I say the Torah is all packaging for this, okay? I think so. I think the Torah is all about this. And here's my point. If we don't understand how this works, then how are we supposed to understand how the Torah is the packaging for this? Like I think we have to think about its mechanism to think about why the Torah is going to. Actually, okay, maybe I might have just confused a couple of things there. All right, should we wrap it up?
What if it's just something so profound that people are curious that the facts it's like I it's like a song, right? It's like an incredible song. People want to hear the song.
Maybe it's something that can be explained. See, you keep on going back to that
Oh, no, because why do I need to say like, why do I need to wave it in front of people like
because I want
candy?
everyone on our
Like,
side. That's
oh, who
why.
wants this delicious best candy? Oh, you think it's kishmak to go to the playoffs baseball game? 1 second, one Yehi Shmei Rabba is $1 billion worth of
If I thought
this
that
is
was worth,
kishmak. It's gonna make your life even more better. Look, it's so stupid and silly. Like, who cares about any of that? Like,
but
I
that's
just
because you didn't explain it. But if I could actually explain it to like smart people, then they might actually join in this project.
you don't need to. Meaning this this is it. That's enough. Rebbe's beautiful explanation is the physicists are amazing. The theoretical physicists have been trying to find, everyone's trying to find a unifying theory, you know? And the big ones did it, right? Like Einstein, Maxwell, they did it. They found the unifying theory. And they love this. They're in heaven with this. And they didn't do it for they didn't do it for something. They just did it because that was their essence. They wanted to know. It was so beautiful. They were chasing beauty. It's a song. It's like a song. It's good within itself. This song will make you your life better. No, it's like a good secret, like a good juice, a good piece, a good story. Just tell it to me. I'm curious. I want to hear it for what it is. So it's like this experience is I want to hear it for what it is.
Mm.
That's part of the reason I'm here. But like why do you have to cheapen it? That's what I'm saying. Why do you have to? I'm saying why do you have to add? Why do you have to cheapen it?
It's a very
Why do you
interesting
have to
question.
add things that aren't? You
Very
know,
interesting question. It's a fascinating question. There's a couple of
why do you
points I
feel
think
the need
about.
to do that?
Yeah, no, there's a couple of points I think about. Is it maybe the same thing? People have a need to teach. People know things and they have to have a need to teach it. Like,
No, you wanted to, I understand that, but why? But what do you have to say this? Why do you have to explain so much why this? Meaning you teach it because you want to teach it. I mean, a
right.
singer with an amazing song wants to sing his song, but he doesn't have to say, come to my concert because this beautiful song will make your life better.
No, but that is the
Because it's a
teaching.
beautiful song. Come listen to my song.
But what if that is the teaching? See, you're assuming that, okay, you're assuming that the essence of the teaching is the beauty of it. I'm not so sure that's true. That's
Why?
what
It's true. It's one reason I go to a good shear. The reason I
this
go
is a
to
good cheer.
the reason why
But this is
I'm
a good
interested is
cheer.
this because it's amazing.
But this
The
is
reason
the
I want to go to
sheer.
shear is because wow, the way that he works the information. The reason I listen to a good lecture, the reason I look at a great painting, the reason why I listen to a song, or I want to hear a good story, or a good
I
juicy
know,
piece
but
of
Zev,
Gemara.
what I know, but what if this is the content of this is the ultimate sheer? The ultimate sheer is the Torah is so into Das Hashem for such and such and such a reason. This is the sheer.
That's the sheer. You didn't tell me that part yet. You explained to me a beautiful. You told me so and so is this experience, and understanding this experience in a way that'll make you want to live in line with this experience.
Right. And since one second, that's just to complete that, and since that's the this is the ultimate reality or the ultimate experience of reality, therefore everything about you will be ordered by this notion, and your whole life you'll find your things like hashkacha, you'll find things working out and being
Oh,
orderly.
beautiful,
Right.
beautiful, beautiful. But keep that as dry in this sense. Keep that as dry and as technical as the rest of the Torah, because it's just another piece of the shear. Don't use it as like a marketing gimmick.
Why not? I don't have, but
Because
let's
it's
say
not a marketing gimmick.
why not? Is it
The
good work?
sheer, the explanation itself is beautiful.
I have
Part
the
of the
cure for
sheer
cancer and I
itself is
shouldn't
this
sell it.
part.
You're telling me I have the cure for cancer, but I shouldn't share it with people. I don't understand you.
No, you should sheer the cure for. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm
I
saying
don't
is
understand you. I'm misunderstanding. Explain it.
you. I'm comparing it to a song, your piece of Torah to a song. So I said you should sing the song because the song is beautiful. Don't cheapen the song by saying that the song will also do something
But
else.
what if the song will cure cancer? Shouldn't I go and sing it? I could. I once tweeted, Mashiach is to be the person who cares the most about Jewish blood. And you know what I meant by that? And I think it's a very powerful idea.
No,
People
no,
think
yeah, you
Mashiach is into
shouldn't. You
spirituality. No,
shouldn't.
this is the most
No,
important teaching. The Torah
you
is the most
shouldn't.
important practical teaching.
Yeah, I think you shouldn't. You shouldn't. You should say it. You should say it. You should say it because it's part of the Torah. Part of the Torah should end. Part of the Torah should end. Oh, this is, you're right, 100% right. And that when you start the Torah of the experience, and you should finish the Torah with a, oh, and this will make everything in the world in order in its beautiful, perfect form.
Torah does that. Torah says
That's it.
that.
Yeah, no, no. That's it. That's the shear. Yeah. What I'm saying is the sign, when you put up a sign for the shear, don't put that this is gonna make everything amazing. You know why? Because then people are gonna come in with the cure cancer lens.
And
Because
then
they
they're
think,
ready.
oh, this
And
is
then they're
gonna
going to
put
lose it.
everything in order, and they're looking with that lens. But they're short, they have that what they think the problems are aren't right. They're stupid. They
No, I
don't
agree
know
with
that,
you.
and they're
I
gonna
agree with
look
you.
in trying to cure their stupid problems with
Correct.
an ulterior motive.
Which then it
So
won't work. Then it won't work.
leave that part out. Let
Fine.
them come in. I have this beautiful shirt. Yes,
Okay.
yes. The that's the definition of Das Hashem. I mean,
No,
that's
I
what's
hear you. I
beautiful.
hear
That
you.
is
But
when I go in with no ulterior motive. If I meditate because I need to be better,
I
then
understand.
it doesn't work.
Right.
When I
Right.
meditate, it's like, oh, the benefits.
Correct. But that gets to the point I asked you before, that isn't it worth formulating and expressing the fact that those who think with no ulterior motives will solve all their problems? That's something we have to tell people.
Of
Okay.
course,
So
of
I agree with you.
course.
Then we agree with
But
each other.
but that shouldn't. But treat it as an equal part as the experience part. It's all equally part of the same
Right.
Torah.
It's not
Don't
serving.
cheapen it and use it as a marketing gimmick because you know it gets
Sure.
people in the
No,
door.
no, for sure not. One is not
And
serving.
don't
Two,
preempt with it because it's not more important than any other part of the.
right, right,
And
right.
that's
But
when
but let's say,
people because people are biased with that. They get excited about
yeah,
that.
yeah. So
And
I
then
think
they're
we do agree
wrong
though.
because they're looking for solutions to non-issues
Right.
and they're missing the point. They're distracted.
Absolutely.
And it
Absolutely.
doesn't work. When you do that, it doesn't work. When you come in looking to be Masudar, it won't work. When you come in looking for Hashem, you'll end up being Masudar.
So I'm not so sure about that. I'll tell you why. Because Masuda is a general enough word. In other words, if you say like this, oh, you'll cure yourself and you'll be rich and you'll find the shidduch and whatever. So
General
that
for you. But when
what?
they hear it, they don't hear it general.
Well, that's the thing. No, I
I
want to
don't
talk
hear
to the
it
thinkers.
general. You
I,
say it general. You can say what you say, right? You can say the most general term in the world, like ultimate times, right? I hear, oh, my mother-in-law will stop nagging me. Right?
okay.
That's what I right.
Well,
It's like
okay.
I already associated that word end of times with
I don't
the
know.
destruction of
I didn't.
Hamas.
What if I say order? What if I say the ultimate order of all being depends on us having a sense
What
of
Trump
existence?
being impeached?
Hmm?
What Trump Remy just said Trump being impeached?
It's interesting.
That's what
Okay.
I'm saying is people are so ingrained in themselves already what order is.
Depends who we're talking to. I want to talk to the
Already,
intellectuals. I want to bring I want to get the physicists
but
to serve
even
Hashem.
it's all spectrum, meaning even I'm an intellectual, and even me, when you say all of order, I already have strong connotations about Hamas.
Uh-huh.
I think I'm right. You probably think I'm right, but maybe we're both wrong. Like order's order. We don't know what order is. We don't know. We just now I think it was Hamas. I used to think it was Trump. I
Right.
don't know.
Right,
Whatever.
but I don't agree with you that I have to think about this. You're raising a very good point, but I want to just repeat. I hear what you're saying, but I don't think that one and two can be so separate, are supposed to be so separated. I think if you separate them too sharply, you're losing something about one. I really do. I think one and two do go together. That
No,
that that's
they go together. What do you mean? It's one thing.
I know so, but then when you
You
talk about one,
understand what I'm
explain
saying? I
one.
agree. It's one thing, and it has to be said as well. You understand what I'm
Right. So
saying?
two
I
has to be
agree.
said. You can't just talk about one.
Of course,
Okay, but what? So what do you say? But it's not a gimmick. It's not a marketing gimmick.
but for a million generations, religion basically until today, until this moment right now, religion has been employed in the sense of come join the church because your life will be amazing. Come join my shir. Come do the Torah and the mitzvahs because everything will be amazing.
Right.
No, that's not your point. You're totally,
Right.
yes, your Torah includes this bit too, but not like they include it.
Okay.
And people are so used to thinking like that
Could be
already.
interesting. I have to think about that more.
Yeah.
Um, okay, Zev, this is a great conversation. Thank you so much. I learned a lot.
Yes, thank you. Wow, I'm so happy.
I'm gonna
How do
I'm
you
gonna
get
stop the
you
recording.
have a lot of people you speak to about this?
1 second. Not enough. Not enough. I have a few actually. 1 second. Let me stop the recording.